OpenAI is finally making it possible to do ads in AI search results. The popular beer brand Dos Equis is actually bringing back the most interesting man in the world, the original old guy. He's, I think, pushing 90 at this point. And JP Morgan's latest ad actually features real customers to tell the story. And one of the most important things to consider right now, according to Forbes, is to focus on storytelling in 2026. Who would have thought that? All this and more in today's episode of Gather. Okay, so let's first hit on OpenAI. So we all know this being ChatGPT. I'm one of many millions who has a paid account. Many have a free account. There's limitations there. One thing that's really cool now, I think, as a marketer, is that AI search for ChatGPT is finally including ads, promotions that are going to show up below the search results, below the actual common response that we get when we put in that prompt in AI search. And it's going to be only relevant ads to that specific search. So for example, if I'm searching for a recipe for homemade Chick-fil-A sauce for my kids, then at the bottom, there may be ads relevant to buying certain recipes, recipe books of sponsored posts that we're able to plug in there. And it's not just going to come from the big guys, right? The major companies who have seemingly unlimited ad spend budget, but it can also come from small businesses who need and want to show up. And so I think the targeted advertising here creates tremendous opportunity to get ads of your products and services in front of very specific audiences, more than we've probably ever seen. Because I know as we've dealt with Google ads across blogs, across YouTube, to then Meta with Instagram and Facebook, and of course, many more like CTV ads. What we've seen with those is, yes, it's been targeted. Yes, you can do lookalike audiences and get specific, which is great. But I think with modeling customer behavior on specific questions they're asking and then putting an ad in front of them, especially if it's an ad done right, then it creates a big opportunity here. Obviously, there's going to be those people out there that don't want to see another ad. We already complain about now how streaming networks based on your tier are pumping ads in front of you despite paying for their membership. I'm thinking of, say, Peacock and other places where we thought we were going to be ad free and be past the days of long commercial breaks, but they're still around. I remember the days before streaming that watching our favorite show, you could watch like 5 minutes and then you'd have like 5 minutes of ads, right? And so I can totally understand where people are coming from with not wanting to experience more ads in their life, but that's why the importance of how the ad is done is going to be in place. So for example, my marketing company, Content Supply, we create ads with the hero of the customer in mind and something that's more creative, that's thoughtful, and is focused on the human story. And that's why brands need to focus on the same. One thing I've noticed lately is when I'm going to my favorite articles or newsroom sites, the interruptive advertising is just next level. It's been something that's been built into place for years with trying to monetize blogs and websites. But there's a mix of, say, news sites, which I can't remember where they're coming from. You got to monetize and make money somewhere, is they push the membership and the paid subscriptions hard, where you've got a pop-up that is full screen or taking up like at least half the screen, asking you to subscribe. You can only get access to, say, 1 of 3 articles before it's no longer free and you have to pay. And then let alone when you're in the article itself, there are ads from other companies in the way of video that's off on the sidebar to stuff that pops up. Or one thing I've found as I'm searching for recipes, not on ChatGPT, is the recipe doesn't show up until the very bottom of the blog article. So you're scanning and scrolling forever past all these other ads and information that's irrelevant or that is like telling the story around the recipe, right? So it's fluff versus just giving you the tangible recipe. And that's one thing I've loved about AI search, be that ChatGPT, Perplexity, or all the other tools out there, is that you don't have to deal with the fluff and you can get direct to the information that you're seeking. And it's broken down in a simple format. usually conversational at times or formatted with bullet points and highlights in certain ways like that. So I'm really fascinated as a marketer, what it's going to look like to receive these ads, but also contribute to the ad creation for OpenAI or ChatGPT's ad platform and what the response will be. I think as marketers and those looking to promote, obviously we're celebrating. Finally, we can get in front of the massive attention that is on these AI tools and platforms. But as a consumer, is it going to annoy us? Is it going to get in the way of how we like to experience the information we have been consuming so far on these tools? And some other cool things to note that I've seen is they're not going to put ads in front of those younger than 18. There is going to be, of course, security restrictions on these ads. So that way it's not collecting your personal data. It's not reselling it that way. Hey, time will tell. I feel like we've heard Meta or others say that, yet there's been loopholes and they've found ways to still do that. So we'll see. And again, the implications here, though, if you're part of a marketing team, if you're a CMO, marketing leader yourself, double down now. Figure out how to create ads that are perfect for AI search results, because that's where the attention is and that's where it's going to go, right? And so investing now, exploring and timing your ad spend and your strategy for advertising around how to get in the right search results for your ideal customer profile, the people who are going to buy what you have to offer. So consider this in your 2026 planning, of course, moving forward, because again, go to where the attention and the platforms are being used. And ChatGPT, OpenAI, among others that are going to be investing in the ad side of their platforms, like Gemini from Google, is going to be very important and a big point of leverage for you marketers out there. So related to this is also the aspect of how to incorporate. And this brings us to the point of story. So it's kind of funny, but it's a recurring theme. It's been in place for many, many years around marketing promotions, is the importance of that buzzword of story. And 2026, according to Forbes, is the year storytelling becomes a CMO's most profitable skill. You think this would have been 2025's priority or 2024's priority, right? It's going to be a priority whether it's 2026, 2039, or 1999 and before, right? The importance of putting a clear story behind your brand is always going to drive more profit. And to break that story down, you need to be able to understand what your brand's actual narrative is. It's not about your products or services. It's about the pains and the solutions and the story that your customers are experiencing. Because the more that you can show your understanding of your ideal customers' pains and problems, what keeps them up at night, the more that you can show empathy and a clear understanding of what those are for your customers, those who actually buy your product or service, the more that they'll see that you actually have the solution for them. And so they'll show up for you as you show up for them first. And so the importance of story is always going to be the most profitable skill, in my opinion, for CMOs, for marketing teams, for anyone looking to sell a product or service. One thing I found that Forbes was definitely emphasizing is that there needs to be a storytelling director, which should be the hat of the CMO. This is the person who owns the narrative of the company, who owns the strategy, and then the team around them, be that in-house or out-of-house, can execute on that strategy, who they can implement that story, they can get it out to the world. And so owning that story and directing where it is navigated, where it is shown, how it is leveraged in different ways is going to be the responsibility and should always be the CMO. And then, of course, like I said, it's a collective effort. One thing I found interesting, I'll pull up this example of there's this coffee shop, I believe based out of New York, and they have leaned into narrative-based storytelling. Whether each story is true or not, they are basically making it into a TV show of a narrative of characters that are recurring. So it basically has this well-shot format for Instagram or TikTok first, vertical format, short form, where someone enters the coffee shop and it's a different character just about every time, but they interact with the same recurring about 2 characters who are behind the coffee desk, so to speak, or the coffee cabinet where they serve coffee. And it's this man and this woman, and they have a certain type of character they're portraying, and the interaction's happening. It's cutting between one camera and the next. So it's really not fancy editing or cinematography. It's lockdown camera, and there's just this deadpan interactions. It's meant to play for comedy. It's meant to, of course, promote this coffee shop. And it's also, first and foremost, meant to tell a story about the different types of customers who enter this coffee shop and want to have access to the coffee or just see themselves in the story that is ultimately about them, those who are going to buy from the coffee shop. And I guarantee everyone watching are not living in New York. They can't go and actually buy the product, but the affinity this builds around the brand and the story that's being told is going to create tremendous leverage where when people are in New York, they are going to want to visit this coffee shop because they've lived the story virtually first. So this is just one of many opportunities for what it looks like to not only establish what your unique story is as a company, as a marketing team, but then how can we get it out to the world in a way that's interesting, that's different? That is one example, something episodic. Another one is to tap into your CMO, your CEO, those who are your company leaders, and to get them in front of the camera. But doing so in a way that doesn't feel like just another polished corporate video. They're in a shirt and tie or the right type of blouse. It's so well polished, but something that gets them to guide the content, to basically have a show that is hosted by your leaders in your company, big or small. Because as we see just this massive growth in AI generated content, some content we won't be able to tell whether it's AI generated, others very obvious, be that written, spoken, on video. What's going to become more important is the human storytelling. And people are going to read through the BS lines and see that, hey, this is actually a human producing and creating. And it's not just noise, but looking for a signal through all of the noise of AI mess and slop and content. So big recommendation. Opportunity here for CMOs, marketing teams is to identify a guide, a spokesperson, not an actor as much as just who your on-screen talent's going to be. It could be you as CMOs, it could be a member of your marketing team. It could be even in-house actors you hire. We've seen that happen with ClickUp, the project management software, who's hired actors who are in-house employees who basically contribute to an SNL style comedy sketch that have a very targeted audience of those in corporate. And it should also be an opportunity to invite your CEO and your company leaders to be the face and voice, but doing so in a way that makes it be more approachable. Again, remove the need to have the perfect film set, the perfect setup to produce this content, and just simply create and improve the format over time. This Forbes article actually hit on a report that Wall Street Journal did. So it's saying that companies are now hiring storytellers with the same decisiveness reserved for hiring media buyers and PR chiefs. The article notes USAA is recruiting its 4th in-house storyteller in under a year, tasking the role with bringing to life scenario situations and opportunities, while a compliance firm is offering up to $274,000 for a head of storytelling. So corporate America is finally learning how luxury brands engage the consumer's passionate pursuit of luxury through narrative storytelling built on the emotional tension the product or a product resolves. So this is definitely an all-out sprint for brands who are seeing the need for storytelling. They're actually hiring in-house to have heads of storytelling exist. Yeah, historically, you could have broken this down directly to the CMOs. As we're saying, the CMO should definitely own the story, but having someone to think and breathe and execute on the story in-house is going to be important. It doesn't mean you can't work with out-of-house partners. Our company at Content Supply does become this out-of-house creative production partner, but what needs to be owned in-house is the story, right? And so big opportunity here. Explore what it looks like for your company, your teams to either hire an in-house storyteller or reimagine what it looks like for an existing team member on your marketing team, ideally led by your CMO, to guide the story for your company. Along these lines, I love this post. I mean, this is from JP Morgan, and it said their latest ad features something entirely new: actual customers. Now, we've all seen those very polished ads. Honestly, what comes to mind most is those medical ads where it's got these beautifully shot scenes of different characters that usually are not speaking. It's just B-roll of them walking and experiencing life. And it usually has just a small subscript that's saying it's actor portrayal or it's not a real story. But imagine using actual real customers who have had a positive experience, maybe not negative, but a positive experience with your company, your products, your services, and getting them on camera, getting them in the ads and in the content you're producing. Now, of course, not every customer is going to be so comfortable on camera. I've seen that time and time again. But if people can truly feel the realness of their story, of their involvement, that their experience is shining through the oftentimes overly polished ads that are out there, then it's going to feel and be, I feel like, a lot more effective. I haven't seen the data yet. And obviously, there have been many ads and content over the years where real customers have been used in some way. Oftentimes, I've seen a lot of those with like Zoom recorded testimonial videos from real customers. Yes, that's effective. Yes, that has a place. But imagine just a higher end commercial, something that you may see around the Super Bowl, where the company is putting real customers. If anything, if it's referencing that customer's name or that company, and then you go to say LinkedIn or their website and you see that actual customer or that employee, that business member's profile, their picture, their name attached to the company website, then you can directly correlate and be like, wow, they actually did use a real customer. I don't know how many people are going to go deep into that curiosity of whether it is a real person or a hired actor, but there's always going to be far better opportunity for marketing teams to use real customer stories and not something of design or fabrication, something that's fake using hired talent. Hired talent has a time and place, actors on camera, of course, but you got to do it in a better way. So this is an invite to you marketing teams out there. Do better. Feature real customers more often in your ads. Okay, and then the last headline, the last topic of today, Dos Equis. I hope I'm saying that right. I don't drink beer, let alone Dos Equis, but hey, one thing I've noticed over the years is how effective or how much I have seen the ads from this company featuring, quote, the most interesting man in the world. So this man, I believe it was back in 2006, they really started to go hard on all these different ad variations across CTV, so TV, across digital, across social, and he popped up everywhere. It's just handsome, older gentleman with a white beard, and he was around 67 at the time. Now he's pushing 87 up to 90. And what Dos Equis is doing is they're getting Jonathan Goldsmith, so this man, to return to the beer business since his last appearance. It's been, I think, over a decade that he's been in these ads. And we all recognize him in some way because we've seen the ads, but I find it interesting, right? I think there's, according to the data here, there's been a massive drop off on beer sales, on the affinity to, say, Dos Equis or these type of brands, or simply an increase in competition, right? There's more options available. So with that being said, imagine these marketing companies are thinking to themselves, well, we're struggling here. Our sales are going down. What can we do to reinvigorate our brand and the affinity to our product with our customers? Let's do what has worked before. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's bring the same wheel back. And so they hired Jonathan, now 87, to reappear and have a return into these ads. I'm sure these ads are interesting, right? As the most interesting man in the world, I'm sure they can be effective. But there's also part of me that's kind of torn, right? If we haven't seen someone for 10 years and he's maybe been beloved, among the advertising world and those who consume that product or have in the past, but is it going to pay off? Is bringing back this form of nostalgia actually going to be effective to build up the brand infinity, kind of a last-ditch effort. On an entertainment front, we're actually seeing these efforts in a similar way done with, say, Marvel from Disney, where they killed off Robert Downey Jr.'s character of Iron Man or Tony Stark back in like 2019. And now 2026, about 7 years later, I believe, they're bringing him back in a whole different character under Doctor Doom, the villain, not the hero anymore. And they're even bringing back Steve Rogers, where they gave them both an amazing send-off in that movie, in my opinion. But I feel like it cheapens that send-off when they bring them back in some version where people are just going to see, in my opinion, them. And it's a play of nostalgia. It's kind of a last-ditch effort to hopefully reinvigorate the audience. And there may be short wins, there may be long-term wins. Time will tell. But I see it as that same kind of play of nostalgia is you're delivering what people want, or maybe what they did want, but they put to bed, right? And so let me know what you think. Is it a smart move to bring back Jonathan Goldsmith, now 87, to be the most interesting man in the world again? Is it going to be effective for the new generations who are stepping into this audience potentially of Dos Equis, this brand? Is it going to be effective? Let me know. What are your thoughts on this? So thanks for joining me on today's episode of Gather, as we gather together to learn of top stories in marketing, in business, and to help you discover what it looks like to tell a better story in your own company. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow along for more content just like this for myself here at Content Supply and our company as we look to gather more storytellers like you together.